Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we have to talk about the Friday the 13th series, so let's jump right into it. Alright, so I'm gonna give it straight to you about Jason. The Jason Voorhees series has been talked about for a few years now. The whole Pamela Voorhees prequel was talked about, and then we were told that they could do anything they wanted with Jason Voorhees, the actual character, because it was in streaming. And being that it's in streaming, they can literally show us anything with Jason Voorhees. So, what's the holdup? Why haven't we got this series? Well, it's one of those things where it was having its own share of problems. Of course, the writer's strikes added to this, and then the actor's strike. Everything sort of added to all of this. However, we now have a definitive reason as to why this series hasn't come out yet, and a huge update as to when we can expect it to come out. All the way back in 2022, Victor Miller won rights to the film that he had made, Friday the 13th. Now, he decided that he was going to take this to A24 and they were going to team up to do a TV series. You jump forward, writer's strikes, all this other stuff, and what ends up happening, 2024, still no series, still nothing going on with this at all. And a lot of people are saying that this series will never officially happen. Well, we now have a little bit of confirmation that A24 is still planning on doing this series, and they have actually said that they had a script ready. They had something going. However, it didn't come out. And why is this? They actually had Charlize Theron planned to play Pamela Voorhees. This sounds amazing. And Scream writer Kevin Williamson actually scripted one of the episodes that would have been an incredibly long chase scene between a victim and Jason Voorhees on a snowdrift. However, was it Jason Voorhees? Because actually this probably would have been Pamela Voorhees. But here's where things get interesting. The series would start off just shortly after Jason drowned, and Pamela Voorhees is seeking revenge. So Pamela Voorhees goes and does all these things to seek revenge. This would be the first season. Then they said that the second season would pick up with Jason himself, and we would get the events of part 2. Now, you might remember that when this series was first announced, and they announced that they could use any version of Jason that had ever appeared in film, that they made the joke that if they got to part 10, they would put Jason to space. So if the series made it to a season 10, we'd get Jason in space. And that's funny because at the time, we just kind of laughed that off. But the evidence of this new idea that has emerged, this announcement that they had this series planned, it changes everything, because that tells us that wasn't much of a joke. But is it a done deal? Is this series dead in the water? Fuller and Gray were removed from the project in early May, and it was said that A24 was actually going to be going a different way. So without these two involved, these two people that were kind of making this happen for A24, it became sort of a will it or won't it. And the announcement happened that it would be canceled. And then, of course, the announcement happened shortly after that it wasn't. But people are still asking this question because there's been no new announcements until recently. The Wrap had spoke to more than a half a dozen insiders while putting together their report, and they said that one source said that A24 didn't feel confident in the vision Fuller and Gray had for the show and had to pull the plug. Another source said it felt like everybody on the Brian Jim side were trying very hard to make the show. A24 felt like they were doing everything they could not to make the show. There's confusion over whether or not Peacock was aware of the decision to fire Fuller and Gray, and whether or not they were directly involved in this decision or whether it came from one of the executives at Universal. But whatever the case is, these two were fired. Crystal Lake is part of A24's goal to expand into more commercial projects as they are looking for a globally recognized property that could move them into the mainstream territory. So the idea of expanding Friday the 13th is very appealing to them. According to Wrap's article, Fuller's approach to the material was to make each season a deconstruction of the first 4 Friday the 13th films. So that right there does tell you that is exactly what they confirmed, that they were going to do this. They were going to make these films each season a new movie. According to the Wrap, the article goes on to say Fuller did assemble a group of writers in 2023 before the writer's strike with members of that team, including his 3 lieutenants, who have worked with him on previous shows like Hannibal, Pushing Daisies, and American Gods, as well as Tommy Pico, who is on the Reservation Dog staff. Tannerud Dew, and I know I butchered that name, who has written multiple novels over the last 30 years and executive produced horror noir, A History of Black Horror, and Stephen Barnes, who is also an author, who has contributed scripts to shows like Stargate SG-1, Outer Limits, and the 80s version of The Twilight Zone. Now, the problem came when the strike ended, according to Wrap. Despite being the first studio to sign the WGA's minimum basic agreement, A24 refused to convert the writers who had worked on the initial development phase into actual paid writers, according to the sources. A24 assured Fuller and Gray that there would be a paid writer's room, but later backtracked, according to several Crystal Lake sources. Fuller couldn't deliver polished scripts because the writers of the initial drafts needed to do revisions, but were prohibited by the guidelines because they weren't officially staff writers. Plus, according to those with knowledge of the situation, the writers are owed $100,000 each for already completed work. So that right there got them into a bit of trouble. And it has come out that some of the things that have been going on, the drama behind the show, has sort of overshadowed the hopes and dreams of it actually coming out. However, it was one little thing that made this show kind of a little bit hard for them to do. Each episode of Crystal Lake was set to have a budget of $9.6 million, but A24 wanted to cut this in half. Now, why would they want to cut this in half? It's actually because this is just under probably half the budget of some of their movies. And this is 8 episodes. This is 8 episodes to do. And when you have 8 episodes like that to do, now you're looking at all sorts of craziness, because now you multiply that, and this is the budget of one of their films. This is where the good news comes in. Despite running into problems on Crystal Lake, A24 is still committed to making the show, which is said to be very important to Peacock. A source close to A24, lawyer Mark Toberoff, and a source close to NBC Universal confirmed that Crystal Lake is still moving forward. It just needs to find a new showrunner. A24 is confident in going into production with it. It remains to be seen if they will use Fuller's original scripts and outlines or start over completely. This is actually very important because this tells you what you need to know. Basically, the show is coming out. It's just going to take a bit longer. They have to figure out if they're going to be using someone whose script ideas can rework what's already out there, what's already been done, which would bring us a different movie every time, or whether this new person wants to take it in a different direction. Right now, either one of those two things are possible, but it is going to happen. And I think this is actually great news. Even though we don't have an official release date of this actually happening, the fact that they have said that this is going to still happen and important to NBC and A24, I believe that they will get this done. It's just really a matter of finding that new person that is going to headline this project and bring it into our living rooms with our 8 episodes of Jason Voorhees goodness. So that is where I'm going to leave it off to you guys. I want to know what you guys think about all of this. Are you excited for this series too? Do you want to see them take their time and actually find someone that's going to do this justice? How do you feel about a different season every time, having a different movie as its guideline? Do you think that having a different movie for each season would really work? As always, make sure you're leaving us that comment in the comment box below. We definitely want to hear from you. Don't forget to share this video with all of your friends. They're going to want to be a part of this conversation as well. Don't forget to hit that like button. It's free. It helps the channel, and we really do appreciate it. Miko says we need more subscribers, and look at this face. You don't want to disappoint Miko, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell while you're down there so you don't miss a single video we do. Then friends, at the end of the day, I know it, you know it, and Miko knows it. Fandom is family.